Let's do that again, shall we? Don't know what happened there.
Every step forward is a new beat to your drama. She's success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drama. Chase success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum.
Yay. Okay, that's what better this time. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, our friends. Welcome, Dr. Yvonne. Welcome, Malcolm, Mr. Calm. I'm glad you're here. How you doing, Dr. Yvonne?
I'm doing great, Annie. How are you?
We're here. No, I'm always excited when we're here. You know, someone told me yesterday I'm the expert. I'm like, no, I'm not. Dr. Yvonne's the expert. I'm just here to support her. So, you know, I can relax while you do your thing. So, of course, another important conversation in our series on how to beat toxic relationships.
Yes.
I think, you know, it's something that we need to address as humanity, if you ask me. So, I'm glad you're here to help us through the process, Dr. Yvonne.
When you go down that road, you know.
Yeah, no, that's what we hope not to go down that road, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because that's a nightmare in itself. You know, it's a disease, like I always say. Natalie, welcome. Glad you're here. Of course, our comments moderator in chief. Thank you so much. It says Ricky's here. Welcome, Ricky. I can't see you on my stream yet. I can see you, and I can't see you on my LinkedIn yet either. Andrew, welcome as well. Thank you so much for being here. I don't think we've seen you before, Andrew. So, you know, big welcome. But we do come back, and then do connect with our friends. My friends, if you're here, drop us a message. You know, drop us a comment. Say hi, like Frank has done. Frank is our AI chatbot creator, all the way in Nigeria. So, you know, of course, you know, in this day and age, chatbots that don't have an answer are no good to anyone. Whereas the AI chatbots always have an answer. They find the answer somewhere on the website, so no, on the internet. So if whatever question you have on someone's website, they will Frank's chatbots will answer you and give you the right answer as well. Welcome, Frank. I haven't seen you for a while, my brother. I'm glad you're here. Liana, I see you as well. Welcome. No, of course, more will join as we go. If you want to join the studio to share, because we'd love to hear your thoughts, then the link is on the event page. Yeah, so just literally open another tab, and then you see the comment section, and there you'll find the link to join the StreamYard link to join the studio. So please do come along and join us. The superstar Elaine. How are you doing, Elaine? The project management genius. She really is that. So we have a room planned. It's all set up. I just got to choose a date. So, you know, you get to meet Elaine properly. Yeah. And I think she's writing a book about funeral planning your funeral. It sounds morbid, but it's a thing we'll have to do, right? We're all gonna die. Sorry, people. That's just fact, right? You know, but I always say before you know, call Elaine before you go. Talk to Elaine. You know, she's writing that book. Because what she has to share is important to all of us. So the next superstar, Hallelujah, she says. Yeah, that's how you pronounce her name. I learned eventually. Now, I can't help you. This lady is just funny. She's hilarious. So we've got a show next week Wednesday. The spotlight on Halle. You know, wait till you find out this woman's stories. Now, I'm going to be laughing all the way for an hour and a half. But now, so will you. So make sure you join us. Do connect with her. You know, she has a holistic wellness business as well, right? You know, and so again, she wants to keep you alive for longer. So Elaine wants to bury you quickly. Not really. You know, Elaine just want to help you make the plans. So Halle, it's all about making you healthy for longer. I like that. So, but now you do get to meet my friends in good time. Ukechi, welcome. Glad you're here. If I haven't missed anyone out. I got everyone. I think so. Excellent. Look, those who do know me, those who don't know me, I am any Any Osung. My company is Global.Media, and what we do is help you to be seen, to be heard. Help people get to know you, like you, trust you. I want to do business with you. I said my two favorite things in the world. Oh no, it's like my email just quit. I said, automatic. I don't know how that happened. Unexpectedly, it's telling me. Thanks. Anyway, notifications on my screen, right? Look. So now, basically, I do two things. I help you write your book, publish your book, launch your book, market your book, and also make you an Amazon bestseller guaranteed. That's my gift. That's my gift to the world. So if you got a book on your computer that's not being published, then let's talk. I want to help you get that book out there. A book that you haven't published doesn't help anyone. Doesn't help you either, by the way. You can't sell it, right? Whereas if you want help to write your book, then let's talk. I got a team that will help you do that. If you've written a book and you don't know whether it's ready to go out, then I got proofreaders who are going to help you. So I got a proofreader and an editor will basically go through your book, suggest ways that you can make the book as good as it can be, and then you can publish a book, right? So of course, I want to publish a book. And I say I tend to do the layout of the books, and then we get your book out there to the world. If you pay me enough, if you pay what it costs, then I will use all my tools and resources and expertise to make your book a bestseller on Amazon. That means that you have you'll be forever known as a best-selling author. That's a legacy, right? And people will trust you. They will trust your book as well, because the reason you're a bestseller is because you topped a category or more on Amazon. It means people like your book, the people read your book, and you're a genius, right? So that's what I give my friends when I say I make you famous, right? Of course, the other thing that's attached to our book service is events. So we'll launch a book by doing events like this. We'll get people to buy your book on the day. We'll help you to make friends on LinkedIn. We'll help you to build a community of people who know you, like you, trust you. I want to buy your book, support you. Not just your book, well, whatever other service you provide. Anyway, I could talk all day about what I do, but no one wants to listen to me waffle on. You're here to listen to Dr. Yvonne, who's our genius in many ways. But I shan't tell you what genius she is. She'll tell you herself. So before we get to Dr. Yvonne, let me welcome Michael. Michael, I do see you. So the legend, Sharon Rose. Thank you so much for joining us, Sharon. Great to see you. So, and Michael said, great energy also to everyone on stage. Dr. Yvonne, how are you doing? The mic is yours. Tell them who you are. Tell them about all the things that you can help them with, my friend.
Well, thanks, Annie, and thanks for everyone who joined. This is our third event on this subject. So, okay, who am I? I'm a mom of 3. I am an entrepreneur. I am a legal business consultant, and my firm has been around for 28 years. I felt the need to create my own company because I started having children at a pretty mature age, and I didn't trust anyone to raise my children, daycare, none of that. So the lateral move to the company, hence 28 years. And I will toot my own horn and say we've been pretty successful. We have launched at least 25 startup companies, and then we've streamlined and helped to manifest good product lines for existing companies. Let's see. And what else? Oh, and I have just started the life coaching thing because it's like the universe just kind of started sending people that way. So everything that I was doing for my family, and we're talking about herbs, we're talking about well-being, we're talking about, learning about the universe and the metaphysical aspects of the universe. That kind of stuff has just started to come on board. And it seems like what's happening are people are levitating towards that, especially women. And so I concentrate on women that kind of reintroduce themselves after, motherhood or working for 20 some odd years and experiencing themselves for the first time again. And obviously that starts internally. So we work holistically, and we first push all the attention inside. And by doing that, we learn to love ourselves, appreciate ourselves more, and, find the things that are not good for us, and we leave it. So that's kind of what I do. What I do for society or community is I advocate for battered and abused women and children. I also do quite a bit with recidivism, the revolving door of jail, and the way that especially America has systemically planted that in certain communities. I help with that. And politically, I'm extremely active right now because I have major skin in the game, and I don't like the way our country is going. So I do a lot of things, but the reason this subject, narcissism, is important to me is because once you learn what it is, you realize that narcissism is on a spectrum, because it really is a mental illness. And all of us have a little bit of narcissistic ways, but when you talk about someone who is narcissistic, who is a narc, they have a mental capacity for this, and they're kind of mean, and some of them become violent, hence the crossover between physical abuse or domestic violence and an extreme narcissist. um, I'm a Caribbean woman, and a lot of the things that we did in our community, in family units, were narcissistic, but it was part of our culture. So it was something we just said, okay, this is his or her attitude. I'll just adapt to it. And of course, if they were older than you, you shut up and you didn't say anything. But now in today's society, we're beginning to realize that it's not okay to make someone the brunt of a joke in public and then, beat them up with it at home so that, you become smaller. See, the whole idea of narcissistic behavior is that the ego is so strong in the narcissist that they need to shrink you. And many narcissists, whether they be your mom, because that's a big thing, or, a sibling, or your boss, or, which is most common, your spouse. And you start realizing that they want you to hide your light under a bushel, and they want to break you down. And they do it in so many ways. And once I learned what I was dealing with, it started making sense. You can't change anything if you don't know what you need to change. And for me, I started realizing that it was not normal, um, for the person that you supposedly love or you are giving your life to ignore you, to love bomb you, to cheat, to lie. It all goes hand in hand, but you have to look at the symptoms. Because a lot of times we're just saying, well, that's that person. But no, they literally are ill. And if you continue to live in that, you're going to get ill, which is kind of what happened to me. So being on this stage and the book that's going to be released, it's not a matter of shaming anyone, because I realized that um, my mom was extremely narcissistic towards me. And the realization of that came upon my father's death. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this woman has probably never, ever cared for me, you know? And in light of that reality, I started realizing that there might be a lot of people out there that are dealing with this, because as you are dealing with this, your self-talk is getting worse and worse and worse. Your ability to love yourself just kind of diminishes. You start looking disheveled. Everything that you're going through starts coming out. It manifests itself. So we know what domestic violence is. We now know basically what narcissism is. But how do we love ourselves enough to choose ourselves? So my whole thing is, yeah, we can identify these types of abusers or abusive behavior, but how do we regulate that in our lives so that we end up loving ourselves again? Because once you stay in that mode, you are literally undermining your own growth. And if you can identify that, then you can start to heal. What is the self-talk? So when I'm working with my clients that come to me, first of all, I say we have to look at it holistically, because it's going to damage your health. It will manifest in your health. It'll manifest in your children. It'll manifest in your home. It'll manifest in your job performance. So helping you through that, we have to look at you totally. What are you feeding your body? You know, what are you doing to actually feed your mind? How are you moving your body? You have to move your body. You know, all of these things add up to finding yourself again and choosing yourself. So that is what I do, Annie, and that is why I am doing it. I'm finding more of a, I would say, attachment to this kind of social development over that of business right now. And I always ask the universe to guide my steps. And so I have to listen to that and I have to obey that, you know? So in doing that, I'm doing less and less business things and more coaching, especially when it comes to the health aspect of it. So that's who I am. And I want to thank everyone for coming to this third event. And I'm hoping, I think we have two more events planned for this. But please chime in and let me know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're thinking, because this is really an illness. But more than anything, how can we heal from it? It's one thing to identify it, but let's talk about being the worst mirror for your narcissist while healing yourself and choosing yourself finally. So, yeah, that's me. That's what I do.
Excellent. I say, I mean, that's only some of the things you do as well. You know, so Dr. Yvonne is my herbalist, and my mother came around today. I'm like, look what I have to take. And she's like, it sounds good. It smells good. So I would just take it. You know, so I haven't had toothache since I met Dr. Yvonne, to be fair. And so I taking, a herbal remedy. That's what I call it, right? So it works for me. So if wellness is your thing, talk to Dr. Yvonne as well. And I say that's one of the things she does well. Let me welcome some more people. So Michael, I'm glad you're here. He said, wow, Dr. Yvonne, you said the magic word. I don't know what the magic word is, Dr. Yvonne. I'm sure you don't either, but you said it. That's the important thing, right?
What was the magic word?
I don't know. Michael, you have to tell us what the magic word is.
Michael.
You said many words, right? Many words. So nothing we can do about that. Dr. Lisa, superstar, a menopause dietitian, genius. Glad you're here, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us as always. This shows we're at a break in July. We're back again next month. August. That's from next Thursday, right? Yay! We're back again. I'm no, next Tuesday, should I say? It could be next Tuesday. Yeah, I think it's next Tuesday. It should be in my diary. I'll tell you when the time comes, my friends. So Halle says, "Thank you, Dr. Yvonne. So true." You know, see, that's the way forward, right? This is Luz from the Netherlands. Hi, Luz. I'm glad you're here. And Luz has a networking business, a networking consultancy. You know, you might think, why do I need to learn how to network properly? I think, you know, we all do, right? You know, so I remember going networking and I walked into a room full of people and I just thought, now what? You know, being prepared, having some strategies to achieve your goals. If you even know what your goals are, and just selling is not really the goal. Networking, selling stuff to people is not the thing. That's not what we're there for. We need to learn the principles of networking, and Luz is on a mission to teach those skills and those principles. So glad you're here, Luz. I do connect with her. She has her own rooms as well. So connect with them. You know, as Luz always says, don't just connect. You know, become friends, make friends, talk to people, meet them, spend time with people. And that's the only way that we'll become, you know, really connected and become real friends. Friends help each other, right? That's what networking is for. So if we never connect properly, then we'll never actually see the benefits. Elaine says, so many women let their husband cheat because they feel they'll never find anyone to love them. I wonder what your thoughts are on that, Dr. Yvonne.
Well, you know, so there's no blanket answer to that. Maybe there's some people that believe that, but you see, when you, okay, I can speak from me, right? From my point of view. When I took the vows for marriage, that was everything to me. You know, loyalty is huge. Loyalty and respect, all right? If your spouse feels it appropriate to break that bond, it doesn't have anything to do with you. And the women that you're speaking about, Elaine, are the women that have been beaten down, or the people, because you know this can work both ways, right? um they've just been beaten down so much that they don't believe they're beautiful. They don't believe that um, anybody else would want them. And remember, when someone is verbally abusing you, right? They're telling you that. I can remember, being told, how ugly I was, and after having 3 children, it was like, who's gonna want you? You have 3 children. No one's gonna want 3 children, and you begin to believe that. So you form a mental cage. And that's what I'm talking about, self-talk. Because everyone deserves to be loved the right way, especially if you're giving it. Unrequited love is something that a lot of people live with. And yes, it's because they settle. But especially in today's society, we don't have to settle. In my culture, women were not really allowed to get divorced. A man could get divorced, but if a woman did it, they were shunned from the community. And you also have to remember that before, women didn't have the capability to just get up and leave the way men did. Now, all of that is changing. And with that change comes the reality that you could have, 8 kids or no kids. If you have a match out there that is meant for you, that is not karmic, all right, in nature, then you're going to find that person and they're going to find you. But yeah, some people have that negative self-talk, but it's because of what they're going through. Once they start healing, they realize, yeah, I have people out there that love me. and I'll find my special person. So yeah, Elaine, that does happen sometimes, but it doesn't have to stay that way. That's my thought on it.
It can't stay that way, because that's not, like you say, it's not a good place to be. It's not a good feeling to have either. Now let's go on a bit more. So Halle says she loves the bird singing in the background. Yeah, well, Dr. Yvonne's, it's always out in nature. That's what it is, right? And you might figure that that those dangling noises you're hearing, Dr. Yvonne's bracelets, she got all those the bracelet charms, all those things that she's got. If I know Dr. Yvonne well enough. I know, because of the way Dr. Yvonne is, because of the bracelets and charms, amongst other things. Yesterday, when she roped into doing an advert to the car showroom, she just showed up. Dr. Yvonne, John, be a star in an advert. And she did. That's what happens when you dress the way she does, right? Don't message me afterwards and say those banging noises. I mean, those banging noises. It's not banging. It's what she is, Dr. Yvonne. That's who she is, right?
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you even mentioned it, Annie, because a lot of people think that it's, I don't know, just jewelry or whatever. But the pieces that I wear are literally, the majority of the pieces that I wear are ancestral pieces. And they were made from pieces that were either broken or something like that from my grandparents or great grandparents or even my parents, some aunts. So the jewelry that I wear is largely ancestral, and I do it because I celebrate my ancestors and I know that they're around me, and I know that they guide me. I know they protect me. So, and then the charm bracelet, I'll just go ahead and tell everybody, this was my dad's chain, and all these little charms you see on them are from my kids when they used to go to those book fairs. So it's not the cost really. For me, it is in the memory of my children that you hear the jingling, but it also breaks up energy. That's a whole nother subject. But yeah, thank you, Annie.
I laugh. I bet they were thinking, why would he go there? Because I have to go there, right? It's Dr. Yvonne all over. It really is.
Well,
There's a comment. I don't know what we think. I know what I think. I'll tell you what I think, and then
what?
I'll hear what you think. And then maybe you also, Michael, from Mr. Calm. I think I agree with Hallie's first point. When you love yourself, everything gets created from there. Yes. Part two, I disagree with completely.
What does that say? When I didn't what?
Create domestic violence. No, you can't create domestic violence. It takes a monkey. It takes a narcissist, an abuser, to create domestic violence.
You can't create domestic. You cannot create domestic
you really
violence.
can't.
No.
It's never on you. It's never on victim.
It's never on the victim. No.
I'm glad we agree, Dr. Yvonne. So
no.
Please, try and explain. So talk us through what you're thinking.
Well, the reason you can't blame the victim for it. Now, give you a little bit of background. I've been on and still serve on boards for domestic violence. That's my biggest give back. And I've been doing it for literally, it's been over 40 years, like literally. The victim cannot be blamed. A lot of people always want to say, well, what did she do? Or, maybe you shouldn't have said that. No. First of all, your home should be your haven, right? You should feel safe there. When you have someone that's that aggressive where they cannot talk out their anger, they are the ones with the issue, not you.
Yeah.
And they have a way, most times, they have a way of catching you off guard the first couple times. And then if you allow it, it just gets worse and worse and worse. But again, you can't blame yourself for that because you walked in to that situation truly in love with that being? You know, I mean, maybe you saw red flags. Well, you had to have seen red flags, but you know, you said, okay, well, he's having a bad day, or she's having a bad day, or, you know, maybe I triggered them, or, you know, something. No, no, you can never blame the person being abused. The person being abused actually went in with a full face. The abuser came in with a mask. And by the time you realize the crap that you have just stepped in, he would have, or she would have, isolated you from your family, their steps. They would have controlled the money, whether you're making money or not. They're going to be in control of that because that controls your movement. Then they're going to stomp on whatever you thought about yourself in the beginning, you know, the great things that supposedly attracted them to you. They're going to break that down. And then all of a sudden, they're going to get bored with you. And that is when you become, you know, get taken for granted and become their punching bag, or, you know, their verbally abusive target. And if you're an empath, it's your energy that they seek. So again, you have to become the mirror. When you start mirroring that type of behavior back, they begin to realize, oh my gosh, you know, they know me. My mask is slipping. That's what you want. And then you want a plan to leave. But never ever blame yourself or anyone else. And until you get into that situation, don't judge why that woman or that man haven't left. Okay? So don't no, never blame the victim. And I guess that kind of upsets me a little bit.
No, don't
You know,
don't let it upset you. I tell you why. So Hannah's explained, you know, that she don't know. It's not blaming herself. You know, I think the point, which, you know, we just use your comment as a way to make a point, Hannah. So it's fine, right? Which is that's what Ron saying. We can never blame ourselves in that situation. But I think I accept your point wholeheartedly, Hannah. Says because I didn't love myself, I stayed in for 4 years. And I got to now deep dive, so you get what I meant. Now, really, now, of course,
wow.
yeah,
Wow. I'm proud of you, and I'm not saying that to be condescending at all. I am literally proud of you. I stayed in for 32 years. But there were a lot of reasons for that, and the manifestation of my illness was a big one. You know, and yes, it's great that you guide people out of it, but then you understand also the steps. You should be up on the stage. That's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
Because I think that your opinion would be greatly valued in this conversation. You know,
yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
go through
I
physical domestic violence, but the mental thing, you know, rendered me unable to walk for over 6 years. That's how it manifested itself in my life. Um, but you know, the universe is great, and sometimes it just slows you down and stops you. Um, Yahweh is there for all of us, but we just have to slow down and listen. But yes, you should be on stage, my
yeah.
dear.
I think that we'll agree on that. You know, she says, let's do a deep conversation about this. Halle, let's now come on stage. Well, you have to be on stage sometime. Maybe not today, but let's work out. Look, you're on Dr. Yvonne Talk. Now, meet, talk, connect, call it what you like, right? Yeah, you're on the same mission. And I said we're all on the same mission to stop this curse in our midst that's gone on for generations, forever. To be honest, I'm saying that it must stop, right? But we need people like you to come and share and your mission to impact billions. Sadly, that's numbers that we're looking at as well, right? So yes, 100% connect. They're correct. I have so much to share. So, Halle, please do connect, and then let's start sharing some of your thoughts as well, for sure.
Wow.
Um, there are a couple more comments. Oh, there's many more comments, but let's do two more. There's one that I really want to get to. Elaine's point. I came from Caribbean parents, and they told me to stop complaining about abuse in the workplace. At least I'm making money, they said. Right? I tolerated horrible abuse in the workplace for 14 years. My mother worked on Wall Street for 13 and came home crying each day. Yeah.
I bet they were Jamaican, right? I bet your parents
Yeah.
were Jamaican because I swear to God, like our culture is a fabulous culture. I'm Jamaican Cuban, and everything about it, I would not change anything about being a Caribbean woman. And I raised my children um, as though they're Jamaican, right? Even though we're in America. um, because the moral standard, the way we work hard, our hearts for other people, our food, there's so many great things about being Jamaican and being Caribbean. But let's be honest, there's a thing called machismo, and it is rampant in our culture. And for me, speaking out, it's like a huge taboo, but I don't care. The silence has to get broken some kind of way. I don't know if you experienced this when you were growing up, but we had a very tight knit, and I mentioned this before. We had a very tight knit Jamaican Caribbean community when I was growing up on the North Shore in Illinois here. And so it was people that had a little bit of money, right? Middle class, upper middle class. But every weekend, there'd be one woman that would catch somebody's hands, all right, the husband's hands. And everybody would know about it. And then that woman would be laying in her room, curtains drawn, and every other Jamaican or Caribbean woman in our community would file in one by one with food. And it would always be on Sundays, right? And they would only take their daughters. I don't know if you experienced that. They never took their sons. And then they would sit by this woman's bed, one by one. Well, what did you do? And it became normal. And what I realized now at this ripe age is that they were literally like grooming us to say, well, this might happen when you get into a serious relationship or you get married. And, expect this because that's a man. No, no, no. And then why are you only taking the girls? Like, why? So I understand, and I would like to know if you're Jamaican. I'm just curious.
Yeah, that you will get to know in good time. Like I say, Elaine, I'm saying definitely. We've got a live event planned. You just need to choose the date, and then we'll sure come and have the conversations with you for sure. Let's pardon me. Let's talk to Michael. I mean, Mr. Calm has been very quiet and calm. There's many more amazing comments, but we'll get to those in good time, right? And I say, let's talk to Michael. Then we'll come back and talk about what it means to go within, to go internal, to find yourself. I think that's part of what you're saying, Halle. So I want to say wavelength on that one. Mr. Calm, talk to us. What's your
Well,
take on the conversation so far?
hello, Dr. Yvonne. I really like the conversation. It's really good. I like the way you're going about it in terms of um, listening to the comments of the listeners and actually providing real-time advice, which is excellent. This is regarding the creation of domestic violence. I had something to say about that. I thought I was a little bit confused about it when it came up because it basically implied to me that somebody is saying that they're this is a behavior that is uncontrollable. That's what it seems to sound like to me. And he's saying since it's uncontrollable, it's some sort of psychological issue. And I'm like, that's not true because it's inherently a behavior that is controllable. Its very essence is control. So um, so please understand that it is a controllable behavior, and as a result, it means that this behavior is a choice. That means you have a choice to either be a domestic violence perpetrator or to be a domestic violence receiver. And that's a choice. These choices are indicative of a mind that desires domestic violence. People who are abusers, they desire domestic violence. And they like to instigate it because they like it. It's kind of like a drug that gives them endorphins. And the more they do it, the more endorphins they get. And so they crave those endorphins. And so they practice it over and over again. And that's why they jump from person to person to person, instigating this behavior. It gets much worse when they are truly uncontrollable, when they are under drugs, like in cannabis. They like smoking cannabis in the Jamaican, what do you call it, in Jamaican society. Cannabis makes you uncontrollable, um, or puts you in that state where you just can't control yourself. And that's what I believe. And that being the case, you start doing things that you desire. You start doing things that you desire. You do them at an extreme point, an extreme juncture. That's what that's what people do when they go to war in Africa. Kids go to war under cannabis. When they take those drugs, they're incited into war, and then they're given guns or machetes, and they go and start killing people, villagers, and so on and so forth. This is how they conduct raids and so on, and you see all these really disgusting mayhem behavior in Africa, as there is in a lot of cases children are under intoxication doing those activities, and they grow up like that, and using that as a means to conduct whatever activity they need to conduct in order to and being aggressive in that manner. That goes on, I think, in large part in quite a bit of Africa, where you talk about rebels and so on and so forth. That happens there. With respect to the receiver has a choice, either tolerating this or not tolerating it. Um, and they also have, and when they tolerate it, they tend to make excuses for the abuser, and indicating, hey, he's not in his mind, or something like that. No, he's absolutely in his mind, and this is something that they gotta know. I'm glad that Dr. Yvonne is talking about this because she's expressing something that, and this is a behavior that is a learned behavior with our children. They learn that from their parents. The parents learned that from their parents, and so it becomes generational. It's a trauma, so to speak, that is carried on from generation to generation to generation. But it is something that can be stopped, and it is a behavior that can be stopped because it's a choice. You either choose to do it or you choose not to do it. When the police come to my domestic violence issues, or when I call them and they say, this has been going on, what do they tell me? They tell me, don't get angry. What you should do if you find yourself in that position where you're going to start hitting, etc., etc., leave. Get out of the area. Just leave. Go. That's the best advice I've been given. Just leave.
Yeah,
Seriously.
I think
So it's a
that's good
choice.
advice. Yeah, no, that's good advice, my friend. It
So
really is. It's
mhm,
again. I always say this in this event, especially. So the one fight I had with a girlfriend when I was, I remember, 16, 17, that's when I decided never again. And I left. Never again. If any relationship gets to physical, I don't know what to call it. You know, well, it's violence from a man to woman, full stop, right? Going
Yeah.
to, it could be a fight. If it gets to a physical fight, then leave. There's nothing there. There's nothing worth hanging around for. Michael, I'm totally with you on that one. Go on, Dr. Yvonne.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is I did not enforce my boundaries. And this is what happens in a lot of these cases too. We don't have our boundaries clear. And, even though when I got married, I had three no's that if any of these three things happen, you're done. And I was serious about it. You know, yes, I've been married for all these years, but each time I tried to leave, something manifested. You know, the worst was not being able to walk. But each time something happened and I couldn't. But did I become the worst nightmare? Yes. Did I start empowering myself? Yes. But it was an awakening. And remember, I've been helping women that have been, and children that have been physically abused a very long time. I wasn't looking at what I was going through as being domestic violence. So again, lack of education on my part. I don't care how many degrees I had. It's something that was innate in that it ran rampant in our culture. So when someone's talking to you badly, you're just like, oh, that person is not easy. Jamaican people say, oh, it's not easy, you know. So they just, oh, let it go, for the goodness of the family, be quiet, don't say anything. And when you have a narcissistic parent, like, what do you do about that when you're raised that children are to be seen and not heard? And you've been raised that way forever. You begin to realize that you don't have to settle for that in your adult life, you know? Um, and in my culture as well, and I can only speak from my own experience, but I can also speak from the experience of helping a multitude of women and children on the side of being physically abused. But when you're mentally abused, you have to start within. You have to understand your value, because I am not a shrinking violet at all. And it's not like I sat there cowering. No, no, no. I must let you know that I I hold a belt in judo as well. I don't play that kind of game, but I was in love, and understand my love is pure. All right. My love is pure. If I say I love you, it comes from within. But you see, I had to have that love for myself. And I I didn't. I didn't. Because if I really loved myself the way that I was saying I would, wouldn't I choose myself?
Mm.
So, you have to learn to choose yourself. And that awakening for me started in 2017. Then I found out about the affairs and all this other stuff, but it was time for me to say, all right, enough is enough already. And I don't deserve to be treated like this. I don't deserve to be ignored. I don't deserve to be the butt of, his family's jokes, because you got to remember there are people that are telling him or her that they don't need to worry about accountability. See, that's the biggest thing, accountability. If they are not held accountable for what they're doing to you or to the kids or to whomever, it's just going to continue. And again, you're not choosing yourself and your boundaries are not clear. So you can, if you decide, oh, I don't want to leave this marriage, like I truly love this person, how can I live with this and still choose myself? It's called a mirror. And eventually, hopefully, they will start wanting to heal, because it'll snap in place eventually one day. And that's honestly, that does happen a lot. It happens a lot, but they have to get help. And once they determine to do that, your whole life can change for the better. You can then begin to recognize the person you fell in love with. But that is a choice that they have to make, not something you can push them into. Are you valuable enough in his eyes or her eyes to go and do the work on yourself? That's what happens. Either they are or they're not. And if they're not, then we have to work on choosing ourselves, because you're going to go get help, right? When you realize what you're in, you're going to go get help to learn more about how you can better help yourself. How you can go out there and be on your own if you want, or go out there and look for love again, right? Those things are all possible. But if he doesn't or she doesn't decide, I don't want to lose that person. They've been saying this for 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. Let me make a choice. Let me try to change. Help. I need help. That's, that's a choice. So, yeah, I hope I answered that question. Did I answer it, or the comment?
Yeah, you did, of course. Yeah, I think you definitely did. You definitely did. Mr. Calm, I'm coming back to you because I don't know what happened. Now, maybe you can explain to me, Mr. Calm. Right? You bought me a ticket to go to a conference, a seminar on Friday, the first. How are we now the speakers on the show, on the event, Michael?
That is the finagling of the host. You better ask her that, how that happened. But this
So,
is it's not that you're a grand speaker. There are a lot of speakers that have been
okay,
selected or that have been invited to speak. So it's an invitation to speak. It's not that you're a speaker. It's
okay.
more like an invitation to speak.
Are you going to speak?
Probably. It all depends on what the questions are and what the topics are. If I'm interested, I'll speak. If I'm not, then I'm not. But
Okay,
that's where the host has given me the gravity to what do you call it? Navigate my own uh, what do you call it? My own speech, whatever I need to make at that convention. If it's a convention, if you can call it a convention, I think that's what it is.
yeah. Well,
Um,
I
I am
should be there.
interested
You'll
in
be.
what's going on there, and
Hmm.
if I can chime in, I will chime in, and I hope you do. That's if something interests you. On the other hand, they might call you out, so it'll be
Hmm.
up to you whether you want to make that something that if you are called
I,
out,
I,
you can definitely charge and leave an invoice if
Look,
you are called out.
I'll talk to you later, and of course, I'll talk to Miss Kim as well. Yeah, if I'm going to speak, I'd like to know what I want to speak about, and then prepare something that I don't try and wing it on the
Ah,
day.
you know me, I'm the winger.
Look,
I'm the Liverpool winger.
thank you so much. I'll leave that one alone. I'll leave the football thing out of this. Otherwise, I might get upset talking about Spurs, but let's not go there. Let's leave that alone, right?
Okay,
Let's go
let
back
me
to our
talk about
comments.
accountability because she said something that was very interesting.
Go for it.
I've got something to say with regards to that. It's a simple sentence. It's basically Accountability to oneself is the currency that elevates your profitability, and I believe that is something that encapsulates um, Dr. Yvonne, because there are several times when she's put several sentences together, and in those sentences, this one sentence keeps on coming out, or this one phrase keeps on appearing in my mind, and that is that accountability to oneself is the currency that elevates your profitability. What do you think about that, Dr. Yvonne? And even Annie, if you can also answer that too.
Uh, Michael, Michael, or Mr. Calm, I need you to speak up just a little bit more. It's hard for me to hear you, but I think you said self accountability. Is that right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I hate missing it when he talks because, you know, he
Yes,
goes
yes,
in
yes.
deep.
Accountability to
Oh, there you
oneself
are.
is the currency that elevates your profitability. So, accountability to oneself is the currency that elevates your profitability.
Wow. Yeah. I'll just say
What do you think?
yeah because that says everything. You have
Okay.
to be accountable. Yeah.
If you can expound on it, I'd certainly appreciate.
Well,
You already
I
did,
think
but
I think
I
that
figured that it would be nice.
oh, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
Michael. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead. Continue thinking. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Um, accountability. Of course, you have to work on being accountable for the actions that somebody else is perpetrating on you. Because eventually you have to stop living in la la land and say, oh, this person is gonna change. Um, you have to, I think that that's the best way to put it. You have to say to yourself, what's best for me and how am I gonna get there? And of course that starts with being accountable. I think that's the best way to even answer it because you're looking at the person that's hurting you to be accountable for their behavior. But are you going to be accountable for allowing that? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
I
that's the same.
mean, and again, I think it circles back to your boundaries and loving yourself. I think I honestly believe that even in your health, you have to love yourself. You have to do what's best for you. And some people might think that that's selfish, but what's wrong with being a little selfish when it comes to being the best you can be? As long as you're not hurting other people and you're not living in your ego or your id. Um, there's nothing wrong with being a little selfish. And I think mothers, because I'm a mom, have a hard time with that. We don't want to be selfish. We just want to pour and pour and pour. Now, you can pour and pour and pour and pour, but what happens if there's nobody pouring into you? What happens when you're empty?
Mhm.
What happens? You know, again, I think Michael, the word accountability pops up there because you already know you're giving and you're giving and you're giving and and you're leaving nothing for yourself. You already know that, right? So yeah, accountability,
Mhm.
yeah, it plays a big role in whether or
Yeah,
not you love yourself enough to set the boundaries that are going to help you.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you, Dr. Yvonne. I think, for many of us, and Halle says, never judge, and no one knows until they experience it themselves. And I think, those on the outside are always thinking, you must know better. You must want better for yourself. Just leave. Why don't you just leave? Just leave. Why are you staying? Look, I've been there myself. I've had friends who chose to be, we chose to fight each other basically. And I'm like, again, they say, I always say now, I kept asking, why didn't you just leave? Either of you just leave. But you know what, Dr. Yvonne, we're nearly 35 years on. They're still together now. I went to go and see them and say, a couple of months ago, I'm like, how are you still together? And then I think my friend, the guy explained, well, they're both my friends, but I grew up with with the girls when we were kids. Basically, he said that it was her that was beating me out. I had to defend myself. So the question still stands: why would you not leave? I think on the accountability front, we just expect it to be the straightforward choice for us to make. As Halle's saying, why don't people leave, Dr. Yvonne?
Until you really get in that situation, it's not that easy, right? You have to remember the phases that you have to go through to get to the point where you can't leave mentally. We cage ourselves, but not only that, most abusers isolate you. They take your money, you can't leave. And then there are other things you have to think about. For me, it was like 3 kids, my business, the houses, taking care of my parents' things. There were just so many different factors. So every situation is different. And if you're not a part of that club, you have no idea how badly people want to leave and can't. But it's easy for someone on the outside to say, oh, just leave, just leave, just leave. What would they do if they were in your situation and had to go through the days, the nights, and everything else that they had to wade through? You have to get a plan. You have to figure out what your next steps are, and you can't move in haste unless it's your life. Now, if it's your life, it's a whole different scene. You got to get help. You got to get out. But if there's a way where you can plan a safe exit that will not harm anybody else, especially if you have children, then you take your time and you do it. And at the same time, work on yourself. But never let somebody else push you out there to leave. I've seen that where family members have gotten involved and, oh, just leave, just get out, just get out. And then let's say they follow what that family member was saying. All of a sudden, you have nowhere to go. And that family member that was telling you to leave, they're like, oh, I can't help you. That was your choice. But they're the ones that pushed you to leave. But in the end, they don't want the responsibility of helping you. So, you have to be accountable for your own actions and the steps that you take to get out of that situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Calm, you still no. Is there anything else you want to add before we go on? I mean, did I answer your question?
Absolutely. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I do hear Mr. Calm as a speaker on Miss Kim's webinar on Friday. I'll tell you more before we go today. But it's from 9 to 4 UK time. Oh, what's that? What's that's EST? So 9 is 5 in the morning, right? 9 is 4 in the morning. Yeah. But it goes on to 3 p.m., which is 9 a.m., I think, your time in US. So do join us. It'll be fun. It's about talking about digital technologies in African countries, especially. That's why I understand the topic is. So do join us. Natalie says, observation and reflection from my own client history list oftentimes narcissism is a reflection projected from ourselves. There are generally at least two perspectives, and both are biased. Until we're honest with ourselves, we do not receive the honesty we seek from others. I'd love to you explain that, Natalie. Dr. Yvonne, what do you get it? Again,
honestly, being quite no, I don't.
I'm thinking, again, I'm just so crystal clear. I'm so black and white about this. Perpetuating violence or even emotional abuse on others is on us. As Michael said, if you don't like what's been done to you, if it's not working for you, leave. Just leave. Please end the relationship. I can never justify. I just can't justify being a bastard to others or anyone else. That's what I'll say, right? Again, I'll say this. I mean, for years, my friends, for years, right? Maybe even generations, we were told the way to control your kids is to smack them. Physical punishment. It's abuse, by the way. Well, we know that now. Suddenly, the government says smacking your child is wrong. And suddenly now we understand that smacking your child is wrong. It just creates more monsters who beat their children later on. Here's my point. If you'd ask many parents, it's even 5 years ago, they say to you, I have to smack my child. How am I going to control the child otherwise? Unless it's a child's fault that I'm beating them. But today, we just know that's fundamentally wrong. That's a lie that we tell ourselves. So that's why I say now, I'll never understand from the victim side, from the woman's side, even a man who's been abused. I'll never understand how we can say it's on them. It's not on them. Yes, it's on them to save themselves, to find the freedom, to find, do the work within that that's everyone's talking about today. But deep down, the abuser is the one with the problem. There's no getting away from that. That's my personal take. Dr. Yvonne, do you want to add to it?
Well, you're right. Literally, you're right. There's not much more really to add to that except for making sure or finding a safe way for you to start a new life. It's one thing to just skip out, right? With no plan, no direction, especially if you're responsible for other souls. Yeah, you're right. There's really not much to add to that, I believe. Honestly.
I'll take that. Again, let's move on with the comments. So Dr. Yvonne, when strangers appear to approach me for a current experience, they look at me and then they back up fast.
Mm-hmm.
What am I doing to absolute strangers? This is an Americanism.
It's your energy. It's your energy. You probably carry that energy where if a Karen looks at you the wrong way, when you turn and look at them, they're like, I don't think I want to go there. It's kind of like a shark in the water. They'll swim by you if they're not hungry, but put a drop of blood on you, they're going to eat you alive. You probably present that very strong aura of, FAFO. That's probably why. See, for me, a lot of people come up and they will tell me their whole life story. But again, I'm a chosen and I am a super empath, which can work for or against you. And your light attracts good and bad people, you know. But in your case, the bad people get afraid. And that's great, especially today in America with these crazy people running around, thinking they can treat people any kind of way because of who we have sitting in the house. I'm not even gonna say White House anymore because um but yeah, be grateful. Be grateful for that. You have a very strong and commanding presence that says don't F with me. Yeah, that's what that is.
Excellent. Well, again, I know Karen well enough to know, not Karen, I know, Elaine well enough to know that she has that persona that
Hmm.
don't mess with me. And she's a serious lady, so you should be. She does say that she's from Trini, so
Oh, Barbados. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether the back pain is a manifestation you talked about, Dr. Yvonne.
What's that?
I don't know whether the back pain she's referring to is the
Oh,
manifestation that you said, that happens to us when abuse gets too much, or when we need to take some
it can
action.
manifest. Yeah, it
Mm,
can manifest. When you see a woman who looks haggard, like
mm,
she doesn't have to be fancy or anything like that. Let's just say she's just a plain woman. She doesn't like to put makeup on or whatever, but she still looks great.
mm,
That's one thing. But when you see a woman that looks like literally a dirty dish rag, you know, because she is just at the end. She's just at the end. Um, that's another manifestation. I never appeared that way. I just couldn't walk. It manifested in my health that way. And now, it's a whole different scene. It's a whole new me, yet it's the me that I always used to know, if that makes sense.
mm.
But Elaine, when you say the back pain, are you experiencing the back pain? Is that what you're saying?
I'm hoping it's a was, because I think Elaine was speaking in the past. I attached it to this comment. Me too. The kids resisted. So again, I imagine that
Oh.
finding your way out, finding your freedom, finding yourself again.
But
Back.
again, Elaine, that is where the selfishness comes in. Because if you're not at your best, how truly are you going to help your kids? It was a struggle for me, um, you know, to think about, okay, I can just get out and leave. I went and built a whole house, like literally, and I was out. He's the one that couldn't leave, you know, and that happens. But you got to set the boundaries, and you've got to do what's good for you, you know. And if the children are resisting, hey, I'm your mom, and this is what time it is, and yeah, this is what we're about to do. You're going to see your dad or your grandma, whoever it is. I'm not going to cut any of that off. You never stand in the way of your children and their other parent. You never do that unless that parent is hurting that child. But you allow that parent and that child to be together. Okay. Um, but yeah, it's not up to the children, Elaine. It's you.
Yeah, I hear you. If you have to get your phone, please feel free. We'll wait a minute. So I do love your comment, Halle. Says Elaine, you know, so that is our body talking to us. I was coached by Louise Hay, and she would say back pain is related to financials. So I get what you're saying, hey, Halle, that each part of our body is talking to us and to understand there's a specific message, right? About different things that are not working well for us. I think that's useful to know for sure. I love for someone to give us a science of that as well, right? Again, how it goes on the emotional cause. It's a lack of emotional support, feeling unloved, or holding back love. And the affirmation: I love and approve of myself. Life supports, and this is that's why this is a way to begin to
I
work on.
love that.
Yeah,
That's one of the exercises I give my clients. The self-talk, what you're talking about is a self-talk, which is something we touched on in the very beginning. Affirmations, music, meditation, energy work helps. But it comes down to the self-talk, which is what affirmations do. You keep telling yourself, in your mind, I'm worthy, you know, and eventually the negative self-talk that's been put there is going to get pushed out. But there's also some things called like cutting cords. That's important too. Self-protection, that's important too. All of those things is what you're talking about. Yes.
amazing. Again, so let's go back to the comments. I think Natalie says she's a third generation Windrush. What, third generation Windrush? I guess child of sorts, right? So third generation from the Windrush generation, and mixed indigenous, so UK born. Yes, Natalie. So no, she's brown, but she's not entirely British. Is what she's saying, I think. And Elaine says we used to we could not go out and play with other kids in Brooklyn, New York. Again, I imagine that's part of being. Is that part of the shame, or is that part of being hidden away, Dr. Yvonne?
No, that's part of our culture. Like, they bought us bikes, right? Like, Schwinn bikes, right? Everybody loves bikes. And we were in like the end of junior high and high school. Do you think we were allowed to even ride it? Like, seriously, if it wasn't back and forth in front of the house? Like, literally, why do you have a 10-speed bike if you can't ride anywhere? That's just cultural. What Elaine's talking about is cultural and very much Caribbean. Like, and you can't play in the front yard. You can't go over anyone's house that's not in the family. That was just how we were raised. And now I appreciate it because they saved me a lot of heartbreak and bad choices that could have possibly been made. But yeah, that's part of culture, I think.
I like that. It makes me laugh. I can always ask why, but why? But I can't ask why. So I'm more intrigued about Halle's medical diagnosis of different illnesses that we can get. And I said the upper back. She says that has emotional connotations, emotional basis behind it. So each part has a different message about the body, and then she gives us, the good stuff: middle back pain, emotional cause, guilt, stuck in the past, feeling of stabbed in the back. Affirmation: I release the past. I'm free to move forward with my love, with love in my heart. So I don't know. Back to your
The
point about
mirror. She's the mirror exercise is really important too, though. Where we look at ourselves and completely naked, after shower or before shower, and all those things that we don't like about ourselves. We look in the mirror and start to love ourselves. It's a hard exercise, but it's a great way to affirm how much you love yourself. Yeah. I love the fact that you are working with positive talk, because that changes your inner conversation. So yeah.
See, Dr. Yvonne, affirmations are good, but I think, not everyone can bridge the gap between self-talk and self-belief. Are you with me? Yeah, you can say the
you're
one
right.
words, but actually, believing it in your head and being that person who is, powerful, who loves themselves genuinely, who has love for themselves and deserves more. It's
Mm.
a big leap, right? It's a huge leap.
It's a huge leap, huge. Because if you truly believe what your worth is, you're not going to let people just walk all over you. But here's the other thing: people make a mistake too. They think that you're really nice. They think they can get over on you. Um, they take your niceness for weakness. You've heard that before, Annie, right?
Yeah.
And then they find out that once you catch on to them, your history. You know, you're the Queen of Swords. You can cut them out of your life in the blink of an eye and not think about it because you've caught on to whatever stupid game they were trying to play on you. That, unfortunately, I have a lot of stories that way. But I've been around the block a few years, so I'm not going to go completely unscathed, especially in business. People want to pick your brain if they know you know something, but they don't want to pay you for it. Or, people will agree to something and then all of a sudden they're not willing to pay for that, but they're willing to take that, but they'll go around the corner and pay somebody else for that. And it's usually either a male or somebody that doesn't look like you, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. Go ahead.
It's a life we live. It's a life we live. Halle, I'll come back to your back pain in a second.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Elaine says, connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Yvonne. I am friendly. Now, she's the loveliest, but she loves to come up. She loves, how to put it. She doesn't want to be messed with. And she, if you don't get to know Elaine, you might think she's been harsh, but she's just been, she's straight to the point. And, she's, I like her because she's a lovely person and she's that person she's friendly. You have to get to know her.
Well, Trinidadian people, they don't play. They don't. And their language is a little bit different, the way they use their words. So people might think that that's harsh, but it's a cultural thing. It's kind of like when Russian people start talking in English, you think they're being really rude, but they don't know really how the English language translates from what they're saying. That happens all the time. And it's a cultural divide as well. It's kind of like when African people, like from Africa, start talking, you would think that, they might be being rude or they might be overly nice. Like it's always, you're welcome for this, you're welcome for that, you're welcome for this. That's just how they talk. It's their use of the English language trying to translate it. And, with Trinidadians, Jamaicans, Barbadians, we have a different way of dealing with people. And the average American or UK person or whatever might think, oh my goodness, they're a little bit harsh, aren't they? And they're not. That's just the way we handle the language. So yeah, Elaine, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But you two, please connect. Let's say Elaine's, maybe it's not just to you, Dr. Yvonne, to everyone, right? Do connect with Elaine, saying, I would love her to make more friends from our community because we need you. Elaine has a couple of books. So you know me, right? Now she's saying, I told you she's writing the one about your funeral planning guide. And I think she got other books coming out as well. I think there's a leadership book that she's working on. So again, do say connect with her and let's find out more. Let's see how we can support her on those journeys. And then we go back to Halle. No, Natalie. Natalie. I thought it was Halle. Sorry. Naturally says middle back pain can also have a biological or chemical cause. Be sure to scan and to body scan and observe and reflect regularly. If the middle back pain continues after 24 hours, seek medical attention to rule out anything more serious. Go on, Dr. Yvonne. I mean, you've experienced psychosomatic, I guess, effects.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened to me with the walking, It's interesting what Natalie is saying here. And I believe it was Elaine too, right? About the different areas of the body. I am not familiar with that. Although I'm certified in reflexology, and I do know that there are points on your feet and your hands, that correlate with what's going on internally. But I'm not familiar with that, and I would love to learn more about that, honestly. Indications of what kind of stress you're going through by, points in your body. I wouldn't be surprised at all, but I honestly don't know anything really about that.
Look, it might be a good time to mention our group book, Dr. Yvonne, which we haven't mentioned yet today. You see,
No.
part of our reason for doing these rooms, my friends, we want to tell the stories of people who have survived narcissism and narcissistic abuse relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are actively looking for co-authors for Dr. Yvonne's anthology. I guess the subtitle really is about finding self-love ultimately. That's what gets you away from these abuse situations. So if you got a story to tell, even if you're confused about how you're going to tell the story, you don't want to name names, you don't want to put your name there, all those sort of things. Talk to Dr. Yvonne. We'll find a way around it. There's many ways that you can tell the story without ever naming names, right? You can use other names. Go on, Dr. Yvonne.
It's for me to come out and talk about this. My mother is still alive, but basically she hates me, and that was something that threw me way back because I didn't realize it. But looking at everything that has transpired, and the culmination of it was my father's death, it's just like I have to love from afar. I have to take care of her from afar, because if ever we're together, she goes for the jugular. I mean, she even used to write letters just tearing me apart for no reason. And when I stopped opening them, she would stuff them in the kids' cards, that she would be sending. Stuff like that, This narcissistic behavior is damaging no matter where it's coming from. And the thing that we have to remember is, in order to heal, we have to get an arm's length or more away from our abuser. But we have to start inside. We have to start inside. I'm telling you, in 2017, something broke inside of me. And it was like, yeah, this is it for me. And for you to come out and talk about it in a public forum is very, very hard. But remember, people in this room are not the only people in the room that's going to hear this. It's going to be on replays. It's going to be on platforms. And eventually the people that I'm talking about are going to know. But for me, it's cathartic. For me, the behavior was unacceptable. For me, anytime a mother tells a child, a daughter, oh, when I was your age, I was much prettier than you. I mean, to me, that's like sick. You know, like, why would you even say that? Like, what prompts you to open your mouth and say that to the kid that you gave birth to? You know, there were just so many things. So coming out and speaking about this, it's not easy. It's not easy.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. There's some amazing people who joined us. Let me welcome them properly so that you'll be a part on my screen. So Karen, I don't know whether to call her Dr. Karen, but we'll call her Lady K on her
Mhm.
show Empowerment of Mind, Body, and Soul. I think you and Lady J would love to have Dr. Yvonne on your show, Karen. I'm sure. I said, I mean, they have deep conversations. As you say, happy Wednesday, great topic. I hope you do connect for sure. So the other person I do want to mention is Mr. Curtis. Make sure I invited you, Mr. Curtis, because now he talks. That's Bruce. He talks serious conversations. And I guess it's around men's behaviors and men's conditions. And sometimes, it is linked to narcissism. It's with narcissism. It's what I've learned from Curtis. And much of narcissism is in the home, not necessarily relationships with a partner. It's more parent-child. Which I think affects many people much more than people realize. It's another great one to connect with. And go on the show. Go and talk to him, Dr. Yvonne. I mean, I need you to make friends with these amazing people, right? Because they more. Michael, I do see you. I'm going to bring you. I'm going to be on stage in a second, my friend. Like I said, I do see you there. So there's Michael Rivers. There's Michael. That's what you got. So Michael Rivers. These are what I'm talking to. So I'll bring you up now, so you know that I do see you. I'm going to come to you in a second, my friend. And so Elaine says, "How do we connect with you, Dr. Yvonne?" I tell you, I'll make it easy for you, Elaine. I will connect you to in a group chat on here on LinkedIn, so that way you have each other's profiles and you can connect with each other separately from there. Then I can delete the group chat. That way I don't keep
Yeah.
sending you.
Yeah, please connect with me. For those who are here on LinkedIn, if you are not on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on largely any other platform. Probably the best one would be Instagram, because my link tree is on Instagram, and I'm under, Smith Canigan, at Smith Canigan. I
No
can put
worries.
that in the chat. Yeah.
You can put your profile in the chat, or I would just connect you to later on after the show. That
Yeah.
way, it makes it easy. The
I
group
look
chat is
forward. I look forward to connecting. Yeah, Elaine. Yeah, maybe we can get kind of destructive. That would be cool.
she still wants an answer to her Karen question. It doesn't feel like you answered it clearly. You have to tell us what Karen is, and then go from there, Dr. Yvonne. But I'm all right with that for now.
Um, well, I think everybody knows what a Karen is. I got to think about what was the question again. I have to go back.
Okay, no, so I'll bring up the question. Let's talk. Let's talk to Michael.
Yeah, let's
That's
talk to Michael for a minute.
how you doing, Michael? Welcome on stage, my friend. How are you?
I am so awesome. Can you hear me okay?
Clearly, very clearly, amazing.
Yes.
Awesome. First and foremost, I want to thank you for having this amazing guest on this platform. Um, you've touched a lot of topics. You've touched a lot of points. At one time, I never thought that I would even want to talk about it. But what's the entertainer? Kanye West said it best. We're all self-conscious. I'm just the first to admit it. Everything that you talked about as far as narcissism and the impacts of it, I was the face of it at one point. I was that narcissist. And one thing that I can say, as heavy as my Rolodex is, and as widely known I am in certain communities, the inverse is also true when it comes to relationships, and how many meaningful quality relationships that I have in the back of me because I didn't understand what was inside of me. What was inside of me had to come out. And it had to come out in a way where, I don't know, I guess they would say karma, um, receiving a dose of my own medicine, if you will. But it had to take a greater than me to understand what I've never been, the only one in the room. I grew to be an elephant, big guy, 6X, less than 2 years ago. And my 6X was too tight for me. But today, I understand the difference about working on self, making sure self is even in the right state of mind to interact with other people. Sometimes silence could be a trigger. So I'm gonna pause and make sure I'm still in the room and people can hear me because my screen is completely frozen.
Yeah, no, thankfully we can still hear you, my friend. We can still hear you.
Okay. So getting back to my story about my ways and my actions and my attitude that I went into my marriage with, like, it was wrong for me to always tell my side of my story. It was wrong for me to tell even my last fiance. And together, these two women at different times, of course, gave me the beautiful, precious promises that I live for this day, to this day. But when I was in their mom's space, I didn't really honor them like I thought I knew how to. Because when you honor someone, you take time to know them, you take time to explore them, to find out what their likes are, what their dislikes are. And this day, I understand how important it is to accept all of them, all of their past hurts, all of their past baggage, all of their past scars. Because when I show myself vulnerable today, I let them know I'm like Adam and Eve now, transparent. So nothing between me and you can ever be something that you hold over my head or that I hold over yours. I used to use those things as a bat verbally and will beat down in submission whoever opposed me for whatever reasons, thinking that my way is the greatest, but refusing to yield myself to wisdom and knowledge when wisdom and knowledge would speak. That was a hard lesson that I had to learn. But I've been a giver by nature, by default. I came in a world giving. I didn't understand what it meant to see somebody else hungry, and I had perfect strangers, but people that I know. Never ever wanted it to make it hard for anyone to have whatever they didn't have. And I was so broken to the point where I would knock on my neighbor's door or take the shirt off my brother's back and give it to that person that I just met. I believe in that. But when it comes to, self-reflection, self-evaluation, remembering that there are other people whose minds and thoughts matter just like yours. Again, it wasn't until I came in this community. It wasn't until I joined these LinkedIn audio rooms that Tasama and Rosemary invited me to. And when they told me about this man, I was like, the woman at the well, come see a man. She told me about this dude named Annie. And I'm like, who's Annie? To Annie know me. But Eddie has a way of creating environments that are disarming, where there's no competition, there's no big eyes and little U's. Eddie had a way of inviting different strangers, to people's lives. And what impressed me most is when he shared with me he don't have a sliding scale. Like, some people base your worth based on what you drive, where you live, the zip code you live in, and then they attack on this crazy fee. And not knowing for half my life, some people that I was leading to other people were running into predators. Mike, they didn't prompt you. You said you was got it for this price, but Annie is so fair and is so reputable. I see why he stands on his own merit. But and that's the little plug for people that want to have their book done but don't know how to get it done or don't know what source to get. Please check this man out. But back to my story and the reason why this conversation even matters. Um, my two little ones, right? I call them the royals because through revelation and meditation, I understood the importance of baby showers. I understood the importance of the scriptural reference where the three wise men came and give gifts to this little baby. We're programmed here on the East Coast to think, or West Coast to think, oh, it's about this one person. But the little bit that I heard what you said earlier about the charms and the symbols, it reminds me of the tabernacle. How the symbols that was on the garments, and when they go into the holies of holies, if they hear them symbols stop, that means somebody dead. You got to drag them out. But the reality is, the gifts that you give to these little people when they come in the world, it's not just one person is, royal. We're all royal. Now I understand why the king and the queen title is so important. But sometimes I see how that could be misappropriately given. I'm known to my little children as servant daddy because one of Annie's hosts, Christiana, one thing she always does when King Josiah start talking, everything stops, and he makes fun of it. But I see even a humor in that because the voice, the sound, when that sound happens, even with my little ones, I become servant now because the servant is meant to serve. And I thought those vows was for, the person that I got married to, the person I pledged my life to. When I reevaluated the situation and looked at the book from a different standpoint, I'm like, it's until death do part for me and a person that I created. Because that one that don't share your blood, as we all been hearing, they can turn into a beast. They can let music, video, influence, a night at the strip club, whatever, that can change your companion into a totally do different person. But what happens with the little people that didn't ask to be here? What about the little people that wasn't even a part of your plan when you seen that person at the club or at the light or in the grocery store or at the beach? That package probably wasn't thought about at the time somebody said, hey, how you doing? Can I get your number? But because of my commitment and my love and my desire to have my little ones in this world, this room on LinkedIn taught me how to be a better version of me, made me get serious about my workout, about honoring my body, making sure that I breathe properly and eat properly. This LinkedIn room taught me how to be a better version of me so I can be the best for them. Now, servant dad is serving the good, so much so that their mom sponsored me for the entire year to come to New York just so I could be with my children. Even though people were in her ear, be that guy, put him in child support, get this, get that. She said he wanted them. It was a dishonor and disrespect for even her to think about coming against what I already been doing. But again, when people are under the wrong influence and when they have the wrong advice in their ear, it's hard. And it brings in a third conversation to our two-way conversation that we first started. We got to be mindful of that environment. And one reason why I scream to the rooftops about people that don't have LinkedIn to come to this platform, because these type of talks are necessary, not just for the community, not just for the school, but your own home, but starting with us first, mentally. When we get it right for ourselves, we can't help but grow so everyone else can benefit and feast off of the newness that we've become. But I'll say one other thing when you talked about, or I think it was Michael B that inserted about a choice to leave. A celebrity mom once told me about the abusive relationship that she was in. And she said to me, how hard it was just to take that advice. And I thought about it. What about the person that doesn't have control of their own bank account, that don't know how to drive, that don't have a second stream of income or another skill that they can go ahead and practice? What happens if they're afraid to go to the police because their companion might be a police or a judge or a lawyer? How are you going to hide from them? What if they want to go on witness protection, but understand that, hey, the feds is everywhere? How are you going to outrun them? It's strategies. It's ways to deal with certain people in different environments, because not everybody has that peace where they could just up and leave. Some people are sharing close quarters, 2 and 3 people in the same box, in the same living space. Started at the bottom. Hey, the thing is knowing where to turn when you have a need to turn. And there's an initiative, safe place, safe space initiative that I had started. And I couldn't wait to come on this. As you can see, it's a lot for me to type. I would have been doing this for days, but getting it all out. And I realized you have, I don't know how long this thing is going to last, but I definitely had to let my voice and my sentiments be heard and make my presence known to you. But I applaud you so much for coming out and making this the forefront of your objective. And for anyone that says people can't change, I'm a living witness that you can. And I'm a living witness that humility starts first in the heart. But you'll know who you can talk to and you know who you can't. But I like the silent treatment now because it could preserve your life. But understanding how to talk when you're in that situation is where the real coaching began. That's where I see the greatest need, is helping to communicate effectively. Not just saying something to be saying it, but understanding why you're saying it and if it really is going to help you today to transition to a better way of life. I'm a yield for now. And thank you, Annie, for allowing me to grace this stage in your platform. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much. You have me blushing. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you for coming on stage as well. We truly appreciate you.
Wow.
Dr.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. I mean, do you know how brave you have to be to literally admit that? I listen, all I can say is thank you, because I wouldn't have thought that an ex-narcissist would be on here and then admitting it too. So, you know, I would like to ask you a question, Michael.
Sure.
And let me add, you're so eloquent. Like, gee whiz. Wow.
Thank you.
He's eloquent, isn't he? Like, wow. Um, Michael,
Yes.
you were married, right? Is that how, or you are married? I don't know. Is that
I,
how?
yes, ma'am. I was definitely married. And well, yes, she's a Black Dutch. She's from Amsterdam. And
Mm,
initially, when we got married, we didn't have the fortune of having two-way conversations. I had to actually make long distance international calls. So I was so impressed with the way she was interested in having conversations with me. And my bill got really, really high. I knew in 3 days I wanted to marry her, but it took her maybe about a week to understand that I was somebody that she would want to marry. But 6 months, $3,000 phone bill, I said, let me go over to your country and show my face to your family first, because I didn't want her traveling here. For one, how she looked, two, how popular she is, and three, in case something happens to her, I needed her family to hold me accountable. I thought it was very irresponsible and, everything if she would have came here first. So yeah, I went there, I met her mom, and was totally impressed with her. And without even shaking her hand, giving her a hug, or kissing her on the cheek, I told her mother, God forbid if something ever happens to me, I want my son raised on your side of the family. And I was speaking in existence that we were going to have children, because that's why I made a commitment to marry her. I knew that I wanted to have children with her and spend the rest of my life with her. It wasn't by accident. He was chosen. So yes.
So when you were married, when you decided to marry her, what was it that made you then begin to tear her down? Because everything that attracts a narcissist, because obviously she was an empath, and obviously she was raised knowing who she was, which is why you wanted a child that would be raised on her side of the family if anything happened. But why did you want to put out her light? What was it in your mind that triggered you to say, I want to make sure? Was it an insecurity? What was it that made you do that to her?
So I think I need to be clear about when narcissism entered into me. Narcissism entered after my divorce. She wasn't the one that I tore down. It was my fiance who I engaged with after her. My ex-wife, my experience on my side made me absolutely despise the process. I looked at it as if it was business. I looked at it as if it was transactional because of my prior experiences of what marriage meant to me. I waited until I was 33, 37. I was 37 to have my first child, and I was 38 when I married. So I started late in life because I had two people that were my guides. And on my mother's side of the family, my aunt and my uncle, great aunt and great uncle, they knew each other from high school and they died together. My daddy's side, my grandmother and my great grandmother, my grandmother and my grandfather, 99 and 100 years old. To me, that's marriage. So that was programmed inside of me. The third element was God, marriage, better, worse, rich, poor, death do part. So those two experiences with that vow that I've been reading all my life, 38, I tied a knot because I'm thinking I have the best of both worlds. I have an amazing woman. I have my first child coming on the way. And then I have these two images of what death do part mean. It was jail. It was jail that turned me into a selfish, selfless, not caring type of person. A 3-day event I turned into 3 years. I missed a court date to come. I didn't know. On the heels of the biggest ever celebration, biggest ever on the East Coast, I'm responsible for. Following my Caribbean Day event, over 1 million people coming, me and my wife and my child celebrating the victory. We coming back. Homeland Security was waiting for me. When I had my interview, they introduced me to the team. They said only two things gonna happen. No, only two things were my option. The good news and bad news that she got dual citizenship, but I had to go to prison, to jail rather. I didn't go upstate, I went to jail. I missed a court date. Nobody told me for 30 days. I was mocked. And my karma was the narcissist in my business practice. When people make commitments to you and you give them a time that you're going to do something and you don't do it, guess what? I suffered. And I felt every bit of that because my narcissistic ways was in business practice. I thought I was handling business, but I wasn't. I was hustling. My framework wasn't right. I didn't have an accountant. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't have a refund policy. I was just backwards because you learn things as you go, but I wasn't schooled. I wasn't coached. I wasn't mentored. So me as a human being, I'm the most sincerest that I know. That's why she married me. It wasn't no pretense, but my anger with the system, my anger with the release date, my anger with being bailed out, it kept being pushed back, kept being pushed back. And before you know it, she filed for divorce. She asked to separate from me. And I said, well, if you want it, you pay for it. Because I didn't sign up to be married and divorced because of this little time. I said, what if I was doing 10 or 20 or 30 years? That's not what, but she didn't know. She's from a different culture. So my lived experience turned out to be my greatest lesson. And my lesson was I ruined a very good relationship because my son was only 15 months when I last held him. 15 months, and I spent all my energy around him. She loved the way I interacted with him, but she held out as long as she possibly could because in her life, jail don't exist in her family. Her family comes from the upper echelon of society. But on my dad's side, my dad left this world when I was 22. That's why I said for my son to be over there because my mother, she busy. My brother's busy. And that the burden of me bringing a child in is unfair for my unbalanced childhood structure on my mother's side to raise my child. God forbid if that was on. So my agreement, I made a living will while I was living. If jail or death should happen, take my son over there. How many people don't do that? How many people don't make provisions in case the worst happens? Who's going to raise your son? Because people live in life like they're going to have both arms, both eyes, and both ears forever. Nobody thinks about the day when your body drop, when your body starts shutting down. And you got these little people that in this world, who's thinking like that? But I was always wired to think that way. But yes, my ex-wife, I can list a few things on one hand why we got divorced, but what she couldn't do is think about life, without me. And this is why she's in good conscience, she had to ask me permission. She had to ask consent. And my narcissistic ways, when I said, you do it, yeah, it was signs of that. And then those calls from jail, like her bill would raise up to $200-300 a month on a phone bill. So when I said earlier, you said the right question or the bingo question, I think you commented on, that's when you talked about recidivism. Because once you go
Oh,
in that system,
yeah.
it's easy to go back in. And they'll
Mhm.
look for any old reason to bring you back and put you in bondage. But at the
It's
end of the
built
day,
that, yeah, it's built that way.
and that's why
Yeah.
I can't praise God enough for this environment on LinkedIn. It's so powerful. It's so much so that I want to invite an opportunity for the Department of Corrections to have an opportunity to have these platforms with people, whether they just starting or on their way back out. Because if you don't learn lessons while you're there, while you have the time and space to do it, what you gonna be when you come back out?
That's interesting because, Michael, I wrote a program that is now being used in Gwinnett County. Um, and that's how I got involved in recidivism.
Wow,
See, community is everything, right?
wow,
Especially when you have skin in the game, which,
yes,
for me are my children, correct? And
yes,
yeah, jail is not a thing in my family. And if it was, you are now X'd out of the family.
right,
And we're not tolerant of that. I think we're becoming more tolerant of that now because we're waking up. But this is something that no, you just don't do. So I kind of understand your wife's culture. But the other thing too is, that bitterness that you're talking about.
yeah,
So you're talking about being bitter, and because you were bitter, it kind of developed into more. And see, that's why when I work with women or anybody, because I have male clients too, but it's the love that you hold for yourself and the ability to forgive yourself and to get rid of that bitterness. I'm not bitter. Like, I still love my husband. I'm just not in love with him. And, I want to live a soft life in this fourth quarter of my life. I have always lived in the masculine energy, and that has nothing to do with him. That's who I am. You know, First and foremost, I'm a litigator, and I will tear somebody from limb to limb. I am not a shrinking violet. But when you're a wife and a mom and sister, whatever, but when you have those, I would call them attributes to be a wife and to be a mother. I would think that that's a great accomplishment as a woman. And I don't care who wants to fight me on that. That's my opinion. I don't need to anyone to stand there with an equality flag that, I'm a woman. Now, obviously, I don't want anybody taking my rights, like cheddar or whatever. But, you know, I if I have a man and this is the man I'm looking at, I want to live a soft life. I want to live in my feminine energy. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be a part of everything moving forward in our home, you know? And so I understand your wife. I honestly do. But the recidivism piece, the reason I got involved in it is because I found out that there was a friend that I grew up with. And I don't really have friends, so I call it an associate. And he kind of reached out to me and eventually told me that he was in a halfway house, and he told me the story because of my background. And I pulled up his case and I read it, and a lot of it was he was railroaded, but he put himself in that position. And that's another thing, the decisions that you make, that's where the karma comes in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wrote the program of a person that had been incarcerated for 5 or more years, how they could cycle back into society so they don't go back to prison. And, here's the other thing. I'm also associated with a company now that does all of the T-Mobiles, um, all of the, let's see, Home Depots, all of their interfacing with their computer and their technology. And they're a second chance company. And literally the people come in as 1099. They get taught this technical uh, career, and then we make sure that when they leave, they have started a business. They get their EIN number, they understand, and all those things you just talked about, not having your stuff straight. That is where I come in and I do all that stuff, because a lot of businesses, especially small businesses, uh, don't have their paperwork right, you know? And
They wow.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like screaming and crying and shouting right now because what you just said. Some people think having a business is it only involves with having an EIN number, which is totally free, and then maybe a fictitious name agreement and a bank account, a business bank account. They think that's all it takes.
Well, a lot of
I
them don't even know about a business bank account. I'll tell you, they commingle funds. I mean,
yeah,
I won't. I can tell you so many companies that I have had to streamline and start over
yeah,
because of the lack of knowledge that way. But so those are the things that I did, and or have done or am still doing. Um, but the recidivism piece, they make sure that you go back, because a
yeah.
lot of people don't know that once you leave jail, you have a bill to pay.
Oh,
I
big
didn't
time,
know that.
big time,
And if
big
you
time.
if you don't have a job, right? And
Yep,
if on every single application it asks you, were you ever incarcerated, then you don't get the job, how are
yep,
you going to pay that bill?
yep. It's a
So,
catch-22 indeed, but
yeah,
there are remedies even for that as well.
yeah, there
And
are.
people like you, definitely people like me, but even the circle of any of Natalie Thomas, of Christiana, like her broadcast that's going to happen tomorrow. I hope that you could come on and like I could see synergy. I see synergy already. But I'm a part of Bucks County Opportunity Council that has the clerk of court, the judge, there's senators, there's so many people a part of this organization.
Let's connect,
Yeah,
because that is exactly how I got it through here. I got him to speak. Um, the head of the company that I'm talking about, Omni Technical LLC. They, I got him to speak in front of several other groups and some senators. I'm kind of a public servant too, sort of.
awesome, awesome. I made a pitch to the people that's over this because they have this huge luxury liner. I think they spent close to $750,000 for this bus. It's a staffing bus, a whole resource. And I told them, you know, it's impressive when that bus comes into communities, but it's lacking a lot of things. And when they asked me how I can fill in the pieces and add value to it, they was impressed. They said, get your team together, get your proposal, and they'll bring all of the businesses and let them sponsor the participants. So this is on the table. I just had the call yesterday in the conference room. It's amazing. One thing that these buses don't have, though, are outlets to rooms like this. And when it comes to the grooming, when it comes to the clothing, when it comes to the mental counseling, it's one thing to get somebody prepared to work for a job and then work with strangers that they've never met before. But what happens if those colleagues start doing things that make them think about their ex or that child or that neighbor that did something wrong to them? We don't understand triggers and how sensitive they can be, but having people like yourself and this network that any walks in, Natalie walks in, like having those type of networks in place to be safeguards to make sure that that company that hires that individual stays in line and can still produce fruit. I see it as a win-win all the way around. So again, I'm so thankful for this opportunity to hear your voice, to understand what you're about. The community, the world needs you. And I just see templates being created that could be emulated throughout the entire globe. And my thing is always the wash, rinse, and repeat. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But if you see value where you add it, why not do it?
Well, success means repetition, and
There you
then
go.
repetition, means success. If it, and like you said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But once you find that rhythm,
Yeah.
you never have to break it, ever.
Yes, ma'am. I'm so proud of you.
Right.
Yeah. Eddie is always fun. I'm so jealous of Eddie. He has the best crowd. I don't I want to be cool like him one day. But I appreciate you. I will yield. It's 3 o'clock where I'm at, and
Yeah.
got some business calls that I got to close out today. But you got an inbox. I already sent my request to connect with you. So, man, it's
I'm
going
looking
down.
forward to it.
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm
Thank you.
thrilled, and thank you so much
Yes,
for
ma'am. Thank
you.
you.
You need to write a book. Like, I'm so serious. Like, you need to write a book on finding yourself after narcissism.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
That's what you need to do, because
Yeah.
a lot of people need this book.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would
I
do a
think
workbook, actually, with stuff in there. Because,
I was on. I'm
anyway,
sorry.
okay, I'm not, I'm the idea person too. So,
I
yeah.
wanted to share this one thing. There's a prayer line that happens every day by another person that was a narcissist. He has a prayer line, Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock sharp. And I think he was the one that said about the person, the thief on the cross, right? It took me like 7 years just to accept that title, that's what I was once called. And the thing is, when somebody commits their trust to you and you don't give them a refund or something of equal value, then that's the title you inherit. You don't have to go to jail for that. You can live in your own home. Your husband or your wife can call you that, because taking their time away. If they have a dinner date set up, if they got plans and you're a part of it and you don't show or you're late, you stole from them. So it's not always the hard, the big, the newsworthy thing. It's the little things. And that's what made me re-examine myself with my own microscope, so nobody else have to. But by me understanding that, the thief on a cross, next to Christ, somebody asked that one question: what would his life have been like if he would have escaped the cross? And my answer was, look at Paul's life. Paul used to get paid to lock people up just for hearing that name, Jesus. Then he would consent to their death. So who wants to come across a person with that background and then say, yeah, I'm a Christian, off with his head? People say, oh, I wish I could live it back in Bible day. No, you don't. Be a scared chump. But the thing is, when you're bold in the world and you do what you do, then you should be that bold when you find yourself. And this is why this boldness comes out, because I found myself. I was an introvert, scared of my own shadow, was not military worthy. That's why my dad wasn't my mentor. Left when I was 7 years old because he didn't understand how to keep his hands to himself from touching my mother. And I thought at 7 years old, I'm a little Superman standing between him and my mom. But the reality is, mom didn't want me to hear that. She protected me, mama's boy. But that's one thing that no woman can ever say, was that I ever put my hands on them. I learned from a young age that's a no-no. But my mouth, sometimes your mouth can be worse than somebody's punch. And sometimes when somebody lose their temper and lose their control, the words that come out of their mouth, you can't get them back. I'm seeing a Bible relived all over again. And
Yeah.
this is why these rooms are so important. But forgiveness starts with me first. And for me, acknowledging what I once was, now what I'm living now, nothing but praise. And I don't do nothing for praise, but I do for purpose now. I love seeing other people win. But on that note, yeah, I'm looking forward to fellowshipping with you, building amazing communities with you, and having Uncle Annie at the core of everything. With a lot of work to him, and he knows I can bring it. I just got to be focused.
Yeah, I say thank
I mean,
no. I mean,
this is awesome. Like, dude, I'm like literally on cloud nine right now because, it's things like this when they say the attraction. You know, I don't chase, I attract.
Oh my
That's
God.
what this is all about.
Yeah.
And you got me like super duper excited at this point. Um, yeah, like, dude, I'm like serious right now.
Oh,
No,
well,
no. This is something now you have to do a room so
yes,
other
ma'am.
people can come in
Yes,
and
ma'am.
know that it's a safe place. See, you
Yes.
felt it was safe to say these things, but
Yeah.
you have no idea how you reinforce this in the
Wow.
minds of the people that have gone through a lot of what I've gone through or whatever. I mean, you have no idea. And it goes to show that, yes, if you take accountability, there you go, Mr. Calm. Um, anything is possible. Anything.
for sure. You know,
Wow.
Michael, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
this,
I don't
this
I
is
don't want to put her business out there, but when I was sponsored to go back to New York,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. It's probably where I'm driving.
go
Can
ahead.
you say that again?
so try again, Michael. I think your signal is suddenly gone wonky. It's gone, to the bushes. That's what we call it on here, right? Yeah. So, Michael, I don't know whether you're still there. I think maybe your
Yeah,
frozen screen.
I
Still there. Okay.
My signal is breaking up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No. Look, so I thank you profusely for coming to join us. You've made our show today. This is probably the best show because you were here. I mean that sincerely. I say,
I agree.
Dr. Yvonne and I, we've been saying we'd love to hear a male's perspective. You've given us a lot to chew on for sure, and a lot to think about. I think some of the comments also reinforce that, my friend. Look, I'll DM you later, Michael. Let's talk again. So I'm so grateful for you done for us today. Let's talk. You know our business, so let's see how we move forward, right? So Karen says the shadow part of ourselves is very important to us for us to address. It helps us shed what isn't you. You're the love of being. You're the love of your being. Honor it. And I was saying the other day to my son, Karen, you know, always respect your name because you have to carry around with you forever, right?
Yeah,
And
shadow work is really important.
mm,
Shadow work, when you get to that level, when you're elevating, when you've reached just the bottom and there's no way but up, right? You have
mm,
to do the shadow work, and that is extremely hard because you have to be completely honest with yourself, and you have to talk about to yourself uh, the things that nobody else knows, things that you would never ever breathe a word of to anyone else, and admit them, accept them, work on them, whether it was done to you or by you.
mm.
But shadow work, extremely important. Great
Yeah,
point.
thank you so much, Karen. Leanne, I've seen a good few of your comments. Say we totally need to write a book. Agree. Because we can all learn from your story, Michael. That's a point, right? We can all learn. We need to learn. It's only by speaking truth that we can learn, that other people can learn, and part of that is our sons learning and our daughters learning as well, right? It's please let's talk and let's see how we can get your story into a form that we can all learn from. But thank you for joining us again today for sure. So Karen says, Michael, you re-enter your life with a different approach. You observe yourself without judgment and speak to yourself with honesty. Karen talks about self-care all the time. So it's called it's healing through integration. That's a beautiful story. Indeed. Thank you so much, Karen. So again, that's Elaine wants to meet Michael, or glad to meet you, Michael. What a story. Again, I do connect, right? I do connect for sure. But saying I'm just doing the last few comments before we can go, Dr. Yvonne. So Elaine says, yes, I have my own family and life now. The weight is lifted. It temporarily returns when I interact with my mum. After the interaction, it just melts away. Yeah, it's triggers. Is what Michael talks about.
That's called, Natalie. That is called cutting cords. That is called choosing yourself, and it's very hard, But with my mom, the last straw was her hurting my daughter, and nobody plays with my kids. I don't care who you are, but they were given to me, and I don't care what age they are. But if you start thinking you're gonna come after my children, you've got like such a big problem. Um, and
It's called
I would
Mama
like
Bear.
to.
Mama Bear wakes up. Dr. Yvonne wakes up.
Oh
And
my!
what it takes,
Listen. But here's the thing: if you are having that kind of effect, that physical effect, every time you interact with your mother, right? Number one, you need to protect yourself. You need to love yourself enough to protect yourself. Number two, you need to figure out, is that interaction that you have with your mother that important where you're going to make yourself sick, and thus you're going to thrust that stuff onto your children, because your children are seeing that. Whether it's spoken or not spoken, your children are seeing that. Are you going to be the change in that lineage? Are you going to be the one that comes up and says, no more? See, that's who I am in my lineage. Are you going to hold that mirror and your mother accountable for the crap that she's putting you through? And now she's putting your kids through it because you're physically being affected. So you have to make the decision. You have to make the choice. And it was a very hard choice. Trust me. I had to walk away. Literally, I had to divorce the majority of my family. And the other part of it was when I stopped giving them money and free time, I became the worst person in the world. And the stories started to swirl. I mean, and then the other thing is they will go after your kids if they see that they cannot get the rise they want out of you. So you really need to make a choice, darling. And you need to really start thinking about it. And I would recommend you start journaling and definitely start grounding yourself, because I bet you dollars to donuts, your chakras are probably not open and you're not grounded. Once you begin to awaken yourself, you will make the right choices for not only you, but for your children. Or you'll become the mirror to your mother if you can't divorce her the way I did. And call her on her shit every day of the week. And then walk away, and not to fight about it, because you don't want to raise your blood pressure. You don't want to be sick. Just call her on it as calmly as possible and then take your leave. Don't continue to sit there and take it when she starts that crap. You've got to be the one to cut it off, especially in front of your kids. And I hope you don't take it. I hope you don't take what I said insulting, but I'm telling you how I had to live through it. Hard choices, you know.
We hear you, Dr. Yvonne. We hear you. So Natalie said, Dr. Yvonne, we share mother woes. Many people share mother woes. This conversation that Kirsten and I had. Where I was in the chat. He was, hosting his room. That's why I love what Curtis talks about. We'll have mother woes. We really all do, and I love it. Elaine's point. Elaine says, "Let it go. Have the last laugh. Writing something and put it in her casket." It sounds a bit harsh, but that is a way to
go. That's kind of sacrilegious. That's why. I mean, it's funny, but no. I even thought about whether or not I would go to her funeral, because things like funerals and weddings and christenings, you're supposed to be in support. Can you truly be in support if you harbor so much negativity towards that person? I will send her off peacefully. You know why? Because I forgive her. I'm not bitter. I just know you're not allowed to hurt me anymore, and you're definitely not allowed to come for my kids. Don't make that mistake. But any of the little things, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because karma is real, and so is dharma. So I rather create dharma, and if the karma you create doesn't hit you, guess what? It'll hit your kids. So we want to walk on the light side of life. We want our heart to be as light as a feather. We want to be able to be a kid, be a child again, to enjoy our lives. So we have to give them leave, and we have to forgive ourselves, forgive them, but it doesn't mean they got to have the same place in your life. That's a mistake people make. Just because you forgive doesn't mean that you have to hold space for that person if it makes you sick.
Yeah,
Oh, wait.
true. And I say, Elaine says harsh is part of being West Indian. Yeah, well, okay, no, that's the thing. I know Elaine's lovely. I know you are lovely too, Dr. Yvonne. So my West Indian friends, they love that. I think it's about getting to know people, right? Once you get to know them, then like all things, build relationships, and you know who someone really is. Never judge a book by its cover, they say. So don't judge people by how they first come across. Always. And as Natalie says, yes, I agree. Why carry that weight, if you do not have to? I said we have to find a way to resolve these issues, right? I'm trying to work my way down to Curtis's comments. So Curtis made a great comment, which about childhood, which I want to get to. Halle, Elaine wants to connect. Look, if you have any trouble connecting, just DM me. I will connect you with whoever you want to connect with. So I'll start a group chat with you two as long as we're connected. Then I'll leave it to you to have the conversations and see where that goes, right? So I think Elaine's laughing at some of our comments earlier. So where am I going? So Karen said we store energies in different parts of our bodies. Deep breathing and releasing that energy is something that we can do, right? Again, I'm sure there was someone on Karen's show recently to what, breath work. I was there, so Karen's show is it's on Sunday.
Crucial. Yeah, breath work is crucial. It's crucial.
So do come along to the show. So Elaine says, I currently have back pain. Let me start there. It says I was caregiver in New York for my parents and drove from Massachusetts to New York a few times a month, to care for them. So it was painful, and I'm sure the back is painful too. Now there's a thing, Dr. Yvonne. Your body never lies, and I got that's the written on my wall. But yeah, your body. So that's a way of saying, when I start feeling aches and pains, I know to stop and try and work out what I'm doing. What am I overdoing? What am I doing too much of? What's not working for me? What's not in alignment?
You have to learn to listen to your body.
Truly.
Yeah.
This is Curtis. No, this is Curtis' comment that I'm trying to get to. We'll leave it here for today, Dr. Yvonne. Adults are dealing with childhood deficiencies that will not solve. Naturally, they are uncovered in the adult relationships, and with reason many stay in abuse relationships. What say you, Dr. Yvonne?
What was that? I'm sorry. What did you say?
It says adults are dealing with childhood deficiencies that we've not solved. Yes. Naturally, they're uncovered in the adult relationships, and with the reason many stay in abuse relationships.
That's part of your shadow work. Because obviously everything stems from, most things stem from your childhood. Your belief system, the way you look at yourself, body dysmorphia, how we allow people to talk to us, how we eat. Because remember now, our reaction is not only just based on emotions, right? It's what we consume as well. Like, you don't want to overconsume sugar, or you don't want to do that at all. But you know what I'm saying? What you eat is what you are. And so that's why you have to look at either healing, being a narcissist, or healing narcissism. You have to look at it.
Yeah, we've lost you. We've lost Dr. Yvonne. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hopefully she'll come back.
Cannot fix.
Yeah, you're back.
Without the other.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. I was saying that you have to look at this holistically. What you eat, how you treat yourself, your body. You have to listen to your body. You can't just treat one part of it. And I bet Michael can probably agree with me on this. You start taking care of yourself better, because now what? You're more worthy. I make sure that my clients get a routine. a daily routine to love themselves, right? And if that means getting up a little bit earlier, if you want to do it in the morning, or if that means, retiring from everybody else a little bit earlier at night so you can just love on yourself. I believe in spiritual baths. All of these things balance. You cannot have one thing without the other. And people tend to forget that. You can't treat a disease or an issue on one symptom. And we have to remember that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Yvonne. Thank you for another amazing live, an amazing session of input that you've given us today. Of course, let's say we're here every 2 weeks. Dr. Yvonne says we're going to do 4 more. We've got a list of 10, Dr. Yvonne. We're going to talk about this for a long time because we need to write your book too, right? There's a group book which we'll, as I said, we would love to hear your stories. If you want to join the group book, just connect with Dr. Yvonne, connect with me, and of course, I'll bring Dr. Yvonne in. Let's have a conversation. Let's see how we can tell your story, well, and what we can learn from you. There's also Dr. Yvonne's book, because now she's an expert on the topic, so why not? She can have her own book as well, right? I think that I know you're working on a workbook as well, Dr. Yvonne.
Yes, the workbook is going to be imperative.
Yeah, so to help you, your coaching clients and clients that you support.
Yeah.
I say thank you. Look, join my next show. It starts in an hour and a half.
Yes.
We're not doing that today, so come and talk to us. Come on. There's a thing in our lives, my friends. Those people for whom life just spirals downwards, right? Suddenly, you expect something, you agree something, suddenly something goes wrong, the cat dies, and then the house burns down, and things just keep going wrong, and it's like, I can't do the work we agreed. It's like, what do you mean? But how do we stop life spiraling? Can we stop life spiraling? That's my conversation later on. What's behind it? What does happen to some people? And not to others, maybe. Or maybe it happens to all of us. Let's talk about it. So join my Being Your Authentic Self and Business room at 10 p.m. my time, 5 p.m. EST. Let's talk about it for sure. Dr. Yvonne, I'll give you the mic to have the last word today.
I would really like Michael to have the last word, but I will go ahead and I'll oblige. You guys, it's just about working on yourself. In the end, everything comes down to what's good for you and pouring into yourself and being a little selfish, not crazy selfish, but just a little selfish so you can heal yourself. That's all. And help heal other people, because once you do the work, you can help somebody else.
Thank you so much, my friends. Let's connect. Let's talk. Let's find solutions together. That's through relationships, right? Look, enjoy. Hopefully, I'll see you later. Otherwise, we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye, Dr. Yvonne. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Every step forward is a new beat to your trauma. She's success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.